सरस्वती गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय, नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद से अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गौ गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिवर्धन की जय, वृंदावन धाम की जय, नवद्वीप धाम की जय, स्वामी तो भक्तवृंद की जय, गंगा माई की जय, जमुना माई की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, स्वामी तो भक्तवृंद की जय। All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Krishna Kirtana Ganana Karnapakau Premamrita Vanidhi Dhira Dhira Jana Priram Nirmasam Krishna Kirtana Ganana Nartana Prabhu Premamritam Vanidhi Dhira Dhira Jana Priya Priya Karo Nimasaram Pujita Chaitanya Kripa Bharau Bhuvi Bhuva Bhara Vahantarakau Bande Rupa Sanatana.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Deva, all glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you, His Grace. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Very well.
It's raining here very heavily, and they are taking our lights off and on.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I have to use backup lights.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why I'm completely.
We hope you will get the light back. So without further ado, maybe we have to start before you run out of whatever little power you have.
I'm using solar anyway, so.
Oh, solar, okay.
Mm.
So Hare Krishna, dear devotees, today we are blessed, fortunate to have His Grace SRIVAS VANACARI speaking to us. Of course, he is not new to most of us, if not all of us. So we expect everybody to listen attentively. And Prabhuji, if you're ready, we'll put the verse on the screen.
Yeah, I think so. We should go ahead.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Let me get some water. Narayana namaskritya narachaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayat nashtaprayasva bhadresu nityam bhagavatam sevaya bhagavati uttamasloke bhakti bhavati naistiki Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. So we are reading from the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, Canto 1, Chapter 18, Text 33. Chapter 18 is Maharaj Parikshit cursed by a Brahmana boy. Maharaj Parikshit cursed by a Brahmana boy. So I read the verse. Aho adharma palanam pivnam bali bujam iva swamini agamyat darshanam dwara panam shunam iva. Aho adharma palanam pivnam bali bujam iva swamini agamya darshanam dwara panam shunam iva. Aho adharma palanam pivnam bali bujam iva swamini agamya darshanam dwara panam shunam iva. Word for word translation. Aho, just look at. Adharma, irreligion. Palanam, of the rulers. Pivnam, of one who is brought up. Bali bujam, like the crows. Eva, like. Swamini, unto the master. Agam, sin. Yet what is? Darshanam of the servants, Dwarapanam, keeping watch at the door, Shunam of the dogs, Eva like. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Shri A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Jagat Guru Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. The Brahmana's son, Shringi, said, "Oh, just look at the sins of the rulers who, like crows and watchdogs at the door, perpetrate sins against their masters, contrary to the principles governing servants." Purport. The Brahmanas are considered to be the head and brains of the social body. And the Kshatriyas are considered to be the arms of the social body. The arms are required to protect the body from all harm. But the arms must act according to the directions of the head and brain. That is a natural arrangement made by the Supreme Order, for it is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that 4 social orders or castes, namely the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and the Sudras, are set up according to quality and work done by them. Naturally, the son of a Brahmana has a good chance to become a Brahmana by the direction of his qualified father, as a son of a medical practitioner has a very good chance to become a qualified medical practitioner. So the caste system is quite scientific. The son must take advantage of the father's qualification and thus become a Brahmana or medical practitioner, and not otherwise. Without being qualified, one cannot become a Brahmana or medical practitioner. And that is the verdict of all scriptures and social orders. Herein, Shringi, a qualified son of a great Brahmana, attained the required Brahminical power both by birth and by training. But he was lacking in culture because he was an inexperienced boy. By the influence of Kali, the son of a Brahmana became puffed up with Brahminical power and thus wrongly compared Maharaj Parikshit to crows and watchdogs. The king is certainly the watchdog of the state in the sense that he keeps vigilant eyes over the border of the state for its protection and defense. But to address him as a watchdog is a sign of a less cultured boy. Thus, the downfall of the Brahminical powers began as they gave importance to birthright without culture. The downfall of the Brahmana caste began in the age of Kali. And since Brahmanas are the heads of the social order, all other orders of society also began to deteriorate. This beginning of Brahminical deterioration was highly deplored by the father of Shringi, as we will find. Om Jnana Timridasya Jnanan Ganashalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yukta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunastam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitam Scha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Iti Namini Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Sri Tatmane Sri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Iti Namini Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvese Sasmuyavadi Pasachade Satarini Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namini Gauratvize Namaha Nityanando Vatutendo Ruvasuda Pranavalabha Janavir Jivita Patir Krishna Prema Prabhu Padmavati Sutta Srimam Sachirananda Purvajaha Bhavam Mata Jagat Rakta Rakta Gora Kilevaraha Advaitam Harina Dveta Racharyam Bhakti Shamshanat Bhaktavataram Itam Sham Advaita Acharya Shraye Panchatattvamakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Nama Pankaja Nabhaya Nama Pankaja Maline Nama Pankaja Nitraya Namaste Pankaja Graye Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagarhitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopita Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Jayatam Surato Pango Mama Madhirmata Gatirma Sarvasva Padam Bhujo Radha Mandana Mohano Divyat Vindaranya Kalpadramada Srimad Ranadgara Simhastanastau Srila Govinda Devo Prishyalibi Sevya Manosmarami Srimam Rasarasarambi Vamsivata Tatastita Karusam Venuswanai Gopi Gopinata Sriyestunaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Bindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suta Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Devi Krishna Mai Prokta Radhika Paradevata Sarva Lakshmi Mai Sarvam Kanti Samohini Paraha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation again. The Brahmana's son Shringi said, "Oh, just look at the sins of the rulers who, like crows and watchdogs, at the door perpetrate sins against their masters, contrary to the principles governing servants. Mukam karoti vachalam pangam lagayete grim yat kripatamahan vande Shri Guru Dina Taranam Paramanam Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Apanda Mandalakaram Vyaptayina Characharam Tatpadam Dashitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. So everyone is welcome to today's SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM class. And before we proceed with our discussion on this verse, we first of all seek the blessings of all these wonderful Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis in this assembly, so that by their mercy, we can execute this sacred service of representing Srila Vyasadeva, the author of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, following the footsteps of great acharyas like Krishnadas Kaviraj, who in the Chaitanya Charitamrita makes this very powerful prayer. Durgame patime indasya skalat pada gate muhur swa kripa yastidanena santa santu avalambalam. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is saying that my path is very, very difficult. And what is more, I am blind and my feet are slipping again and again. Maya has created such a slippery ground for those who are trying to escape her grip. So as we try to walk out of this Maya's arena, again and again we are slipping. And therefore we need the support, the stick of support of the saintly devotees. If they simply grant me the stick of support, of their mercy, then certainly I should be able to execute devotional service without much difficulty. Without the mercy of the Vaishnavas, we are nowhere. Without the mercy of the Vaishnavas, we cannot make one step forward in our devotional service. So therefore, we always have to seek the blessings of the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, so that by their kind mercy, we can do something small in the glorification of the Lord, in the execution of bhakti, and the purification of our lives, ultimately leading to success, leading to perfection of life. So I seek the mercy and blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, so that I may say something which is relevant for my own purification and probably for the benefit of the audience. So in this verse, Shukadeva Goswami is reporting the statements of Shringi, the Brahmana son of Samiki Rishi, or Samika Rishi. He's saying, oh, just look at the sins of the rulers who like crows and watchdogs at the door perpetrate sins against their masters, contrary to the principles governing servants. One may say that Parikshit Maharaj, he is the cause of this curse. He is the cause of these insults. He is the cause of Shringi's anger and ultimately issuing such words toward Parikshit Maharaj. But it is written in the scriptures that the king must be respected no matter his position, no matter his action, no matter what he does, the king must be respected. Actually, Srila Prabhupada brought up a number of points in this purport. The first point is this social body, which is described as a caste system, is created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This caste system did not just drop from the sky. It was created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead for a special purpose. So Srila Prabhupada writes, the social body created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, headed by the Brahmins, and the arms. Okay, the Brahmins represent the head and the brains, and the Kshatriyas represent the arms that protect the social body. So there is a design, there is an intelligent design in the creation of the Varna Ashrama. Because here we're discussing the Varna. In the 11th canto of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, Lord Krishna himself, speaking to Uddhava, talks about the origin of the Varna Ashram. Lord Krishna says, Ado Krita Yuge Varno, Nrinam Hamsa iti smritaha. Adao means the beginning. Adao. In the beginning. In the beginning, there was Satya Yuga. And in Satya Yuga, there was only one social class. There was only one social class called the Hamsas. In Satya Yuga, there was no Varna Ashram. There was none. There were no caste system. Everyone was a pure devotee. Everyone was engaged in the worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in pure devotional service through the process of meditation. And so, there was no need for Varna ashram because everyone was a devotee. Everyone was a pure devotee. Everyone was meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everyone was serving the Lord in a very wonderful way. But in Treta Yuga, when the bull of religion lost one leg, in Satya Yuga, the bull of religion had 4 legs. But in Treta Yuga, the next age, the bull of religion lost 1 leg. And so as 1 leg was lost, 1/4 of the people of Treta Yuga also lost their religiosity. They also lost their devotional attitude. And they became atheistic. And so there was a need for the caste system. There was a need for the Varna Ashrama system. So in Satya Yuga, there was no Varna Ashram system, there was no caste system, because everyone was Hamsa. Everyone was like a swan. Everyone was a pure devotee. Everyone was meditating on the Lord. Everyone was enjoying the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there was no need for Varna and there was no need for Ashrama. Everyone was engaged in meditation on the lotus feet of the Lord. So Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita tells us, Chatur Varanyam Mayasristam Guna Karma Vibhaga Saha. And according to the 3 modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the 4 divisions of human society were created by me. And although I am the creator of this system, you should know that I am yet the non-doer and unchangeable. So when the need arises for the Lord to create the Varna Ashram system, beginning with the Varna, the Lord created from his universal form the Varnas. It is said in the 11th canto, Vipra Kshatriya Vitsudra Mukha Bahuru Padaja, that in Treta Yuga, the 4 social orders were manifested from the universal form of the personality of Godhead. The Brahmanas appear from the Lord's face, the Kshatriyas appear from the Lord's arms, the Vaishyas from the Lord's thighs, and the Sudras from the legs of the universal form. Each social division was recognized by its particular duties and behavior. So, when the need arose in Treta Yuga, the Lord created the 4 divisions of human society. When that single society, the Hamsa society, began to deteriorate because of the effect of the changing yuga. Satya Yuga is a beautiful yuga. Satya Yuga is the perfect yuga. Actually, Satya Yuga is simply like the spiritual atmosphere. Satya Yuga, there is no difference between Satya Yuga and Vaikuntha planets. Because everyone is naturally a devotee, everyone meditates on the Supreme Lord, and everybody relishes devotional service. But as the yuga diminishes into the sandhya or the junction and finally becoming Treta Yuga, things began to deteriorate. The bull of religion lost one leg. And a quarter of the people became degraded. So it became necessary for the creation of the Varanas. The Lord is the creator of everything. Everything is emanating from Krishna. He's the creator of everything. He's the sustainer of everything. He's the annihilator of everything. And after annihilation, everything rests in him. So even though the Lord is the creator of everything, creator of the social system, creator of the Varnashram system, the Lord remains aloof. The Brahmanas are situated in a mode of goodness because goodness is needed for studying and teaching the Shastra. Without goodness, one cannot understand the Vedic scriptures. So, to become a student of the Vedic scriptures and to comprehend what we are studying, to absorb what we are studying, and actually apply them, one has to be in a mode of goodness. And that is why the Brahmanas are created in a mode of goodness. Because part of their duty is to study the scripture, teach the scripture, perform sacrifices for themselves, perform sacrifices for others, receive alms, donations, and distribute alms. These are the 6 activities of the Brahmanas. So therefore, they are always in a mode of goodness. Then they can study the scriptures very deeply, they can apply the scriptures, and they can teach others. For the Kshatriya class, they are situated in a mode of passion. To do administration, some passion is required. One who is in total goodness, one experiencing total goodness, may not be a good administrator because he's always in a mode of goodness. He doesn't get into passion. So how can he chastise? How can he reprimand? So therefore, the Kshatriyas, because their duty is to rule, their duty is to administer, their duty is to chastise, their duty is to protect. Therefore, the Kshatriyas, they are endowed with the mode of passion. And so we see that sometimes Kshatriyas are allowed to go into the forest to hunt. By hunting, they increase their expertise in shooting, in killing. By hunting, they increase their passion. And even sometimes, Kshatriyas are allowed to eat meat. Because by eating blood, one increases his passion. For the Vaishyas, they are in a mixed mode. They are in a mode of passion and ignorance. And for the Sudras, they are in a mode of ignorance. And so we see that the Brahmanas, they are allowed to retire in an advanced age and take sannyas. Kshatriyas and Vaishyas are allowed to retire, but they cannot take sannyas. They can go up to Vanaprastha. And for the Sudras, they don't even go to Gurukula because they are always controlled by Tamagun. Vaishyas, Kshatriyas, and Brahmanas, they go to Gurukul for some training. But because of the different modes they find themselves in, the Brahmanas are allowed to retire from active service, take sannyas, travel and preach. The Kshatriyas and Vaishyas, they can retire from active family life and remain at Vanaprasthas, perform austerity for purification. But for the Sudras, they don't go to Gurukul and they don't renounce. They simply engage in the service of the higher castes, the Vaishyas, the Kshatriyas, and the Brahmanas. And if they do their services very honestly, very nicely, they also become promoted. However, it must be noted that even though all of these qualities are coming from Krishna, the different varnas are coming from Krishna, the modes are coming from Krishna, but Krishna remains aloof. Just like the spider creates his spider web for trapping his prey, but the spider web is under the control of the spider. The spider can swallow up the web and the spider can create another web. The spider is never caught up in his web. The web is always under the control of the spider. So therefore it is said that all these varnas, ashramas, modes of nature, quality of work, and so on that are created by the Supreme Lord, they do not touch the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Harihi nirguna shakshat, purusha prakrite paraha. Lord Hari, he has no connection with these material modes. He has no connection with this material world. He always remains the Supreme Person. He has always remained in a transcendental position. And therefore, by worshiping him, therefore, by contacting him through the process of bhakti, Krishna bhakti, one also becomes transcendentally situated. Tam bhajam nirguna bhavet. Tam bhajam nirguna bhavet. Anyone who worships him also becomes nirguna. Tam bhajam nirguna bhavet. Anyone who is connected to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always in the transcendental position, if one is in contact, constant contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, through devotional service, through worship, through studying his pastimes, one can also attain that transcendental position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, the purpose of creating the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas has a divine purpose. Lord Krishna created the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas so that they can interdepend on each other. Actually, in this world, there is interdependence. The Brahmanas, they provide spiritual knowledge, spiritual guidance. The Kshatriyas, they provide protection, administration, making sure everyone is engaged, actively engaged in their varnas. And they protect the state, protect the borders, protect the boundaries, and they do not allow any encroachment, so that everybody can work peacefully, execute their functions peacefully. The Vaishyas, they are the economic fiber of the society, economic nerve of the society. They provide all the economic commodities, grains, milk products. And the Sudras, they provide labor, services. So the purpose of creating the Varna is interdependence. Particularly, there is great interdependence between the Brahmanas and the Vaishyas, and the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas. The Brahmanas provide spiritual knowledge, they provide guidance, direction to the Kshatriyas, and the Kshatriyas provide maintenance and protection to the Brahmanas. Even Chatumurka Brahma is surrounded by sages. Sometimes we hear of 7 sages, sometimes we hear of 9 sages. That are the constant associates of Brahma. They call Sapta Rishis or Nav Rishis. What are they meant for? They form a Brahminical council and they constantly guide and advise Brahma. Even though Brahma is the most intelligent person in the universe, but Brahma keeps the association of these Sapta Brahmas or Sapta Rishis so that he can consult with them on very important issues. So Brahma is the administrator, and therefore by Krishna's arrangement, the Sapta Rishis are with him to give guidance. So interdependence. Brihaspati is the head of the Brahmanical Council of Indra. Vashishta Muni is the head of the Brahmanical Council of Dasarat Maharaj. Daumya Muni, he gave spiritual guidance to the Pandavas, headed by Yudhishthira Maharaj. So the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas, they have such a close working relationship. In Vedic times, there is no question of a government without a Brahmanical council. If you read in the 4th canto of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, I think the 13th chapter, 14th chapter, 15th chapter, it talks about Prithu Maharaj. The advent of Prithu Maharaj. Prithu's father was King Vena. King Vena was a very sinful king who never cared for the Brahmanas. He never looked in their direction. He was completely independent of the Brahmanas. And therefore, the Brahmanas, they had no choice but to kill him. because he was so rude, he was so sinful, he was so demonic. He even wanted the Brahmanas to worship him. He said the Brahmanas should stop worshiping demigods. They should stop worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It was all a waste of time. They should worship him. He was a king. So the Brahmana decided that this is not the order. The order is Brahmanas give advice to the king, the Kshatriyas, and the king carries out the orders of the Brahmanas. He administered his state according to the advice given to him by the Brahmanas. But here is this king who does not consider the Brahmanas anything. He even wanted them to worship him. So they said, we cannot keep such a king. So they chanted mantras and they ended the life of King Vena. And then they took his arm and they churned his thighs. And from the churning of the thighs of Vena, Prithu Maharaj and his wife, his consort, Archie, were produced. And Prithu Maharaj, who was empowered with Palana Shakti, the ruling energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He rules so nicely. He rules so beautifully. But he was also surrounded by Brahmanas. He was surrounded by the same Brahmanas who had killed his father and who had churned the body of their father, his father, and brought him forth with his wife. And the same Brahmana, they coronated him. They installed him as the king of the world on the throne. So from time immemorial, from the Vedic tradition, the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas, they work hand in hand. There is no question of disagreement between Brahmanas and Kshatriyas. In fact, when Kadarma Muni was meditating in the Bindu Sarovar near the Saraswati River, Swayambhuva Manu wanted to marry his daughter Devahuti to Kadarma Muni. So Swayambhuva Manu and his wife Shatarupa, they mounted their chariot, carried their daughter Devahuti, and went searching for a husband, qualified husband, a Mahayogi, Kadarma Muni, who was situated at the Bindu Sarovar. And they arrived at the hermitage of this great sage. And again, the relationship between Brahmanas and Kshatriyas was exhibited. Shankaramananam Deva Satam Samsara Shaya De Sayate Hari Shaktir Hi Palini. Kadarma Muni, a great sage, a great yogi, a great Brahmana, was glorifying the king. He says, my dear king, Swayambhuva Manu, this tour you have undertaken is surely intended to protect the virtues and kill the demons, since you embody the protecting energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The king is the representative of the protecting energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore, his position is very, very important as far as administration is concerned. So Kadarma Muni, a great yogi, a great Muni, a great Brahmana, a great mystic, he was glorifying the king for embarking on that tour to keep demons under control and to protect the virtues. The king represents the Palana Shakti, the protective energy of the Lord, which allows the kings to rule and maintain all living entities. Furthermore, Kadarma Muni, he said, Yama Dharma Prachetasam Rupani Stana the other stay. He said, my dear king, you can assume the part of the sun god, the moon god, the fire god, Agni, Indra, Vayu, the wind god, Yama, the god of punishment, Dharma, the god of piety, Varuna, the god of waters. You can assume any of these forms in order to execute your duty of protecting the praja, the citizens. In one of the papers, Srila Prabhupada says, since the sage Kadarma Muni was a Brahmana and Swayambhuva Muni was a Kshatriya, the sage was not supposed to offer such praises to the king because socially his position was greater than that of the king. But he offered his obeisances to Swayambhuva Manu because as Manu, the king and emperor of the entire universe, he was a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore, the Supreme Lord is always worshipable, regardless of whether he is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Sudra. As a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the king deserves respects from everyone. And if the king does not perform his duty, everyone suffers. If the king does not execute his function, everyone suffers. If you do not mount your victorious jewel chariot, whose mere presence threatens culprits, if you do not produce the fierce sounds from the twanging of your bow, and if you do not roam about the state like the brilliant sun, leading a huge army, trampling feet causing the globe of earth to tremble, then the moral laws governing the varnas and ashramas created by the Supreme Lord would be broken by rogues and thieves. So the king's duty, the king's function is to keep law and order. And therefore, he must travel, he must move, he must do everything possible to keep rogues, rascals, and thieves under control. It is a duty of a responsible king to protect the social and spiritual orders in human society. Without that protection, human society cannot progress. Without that protection, human society becomes degraded. Without that protection, human beings cannot achieve the goal of life for which this body is meant. So therefore, the position of the king is crucial. And the king needs the advice of the Brahmanas. The king needs the guidance of the Brahmanas because the Brahmanas are deep in spiritual understanding. The Brahmanas have deep spiritual insight. The Brahmanas have spiritual vision, always being situated in a mode of goodness. They're in touch with the divine, and so they can give appropriate guidance to the king for the management of the state. So the king, the Brahmanas and the kings are supposed to work together for the benefit of human society. In the Chandogya Upanishads, there is an interesting story how the king, how the Brahmanas and the kings work together for the progress of humanity. There is a story of Janashruti Potrayana, Janashruti Potrayana. He was a very powerful king, very charitable king, but he lacked spiritual knowledge. So two sages, they decided that they would create a desire in the king so that he can gain some spiritual knowledge, because he needed it for his administration. So the two riches, they turned into swans, and they went near to the king. One of the swans began to glorify the king very highly, and the second swan began to condemn the king very badly. So one of them said, "You are a great king, very charitable king. You are doing so nicely. Continue like this. It's good. It will elevate you and elevate everybody else." But one of them said, "You are a useless king. You have no spiritual knowledge. How are you going to guide your citizens? You are deprived of spiritual knowledge. So you'll be doing things blindly. You need spiritual knowledge." Then the second rishi then said, "There is a sage. His name is Raikyamuni. Raikyamuni just lived nearby here. He's full of spiritual knowledge. He's very exalted. Why don't you go to him and learn some spiritual knowledge?" So when this king, Janashruti, heard this from these two swans, he developed a desire to approach Raikyamuni. So he sent a lot of gifts. He's already a very charitable king. So obviously he would give charity. So he went with a big charity to Raikyamuni and offered them to the Raikyamuni, offered obeisances. And when he sat up, immediately the Raikyamuni started chastising him. He said, "You Sudra, what have you come here to do? I have no time for Sudras. I don't waste my time teaching Sudras." Oh, the king was surprised. "I'm a king, I'm a Kshatriya, I'm not even a Vaishya, and you are calling me a Sudra? What is this?" Then Raikyamuni said, "Because you are lamenting. When those two sages talk to you, you are full of lamentation. That is why I've called you a Sudra." He said the quality of a Sudra is that he is always lamenting. Anybody who is always lamenting should be understood to be a Sudra. Only Sudras lament. Vaishyas don't lament. Kshatriyas don't lament. Brahmanas don't lament. But for Sudras, they lament about everything. So he said you are a Sudra because when the sages criticized you, you became full of lamentation. And out of that lamentation, you have come here. So unless you drop that lamentation, I cannot impart spiritual knowledge to you. So the king begged him, "All right, I understand. I accept my position as a Sudra because I'm lamenting. I am going to purge myself with this lamentation so that I can qualify to become your student." Of course, eventually he satisfied Raikyamuni, and Raikyamuni imparted spiritual knowledge to this king, and he went back to his kingdom and he ruled so nicely. So from this story, we can see the interdependence of the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas. So there are also examples of great Brahmanas who utilize their energies very nicely, their Brahminical powers very nicely, like the case of Bhrigu Muni when Bhrigu Muni saw that the attendants of Lord Shiva were going to attack the Daksha Yagya, when Daksha was performing his Yagya, and he did not pay attention to Sati, his daughter, and Sati set her body ablaze. The associates of Lord Shiva were very angry, and they wanted to disorganize the whole Yagya. Bhrigu had to chant mantras to create the Ribus, Ribu demigods. And those Ribu demigods, they drove away Lord Shiva's associates. And when Lord Shiva heard this, he was so angry. He bit his mouth, his lips, and pulled off a hair from his head, banged it to the ground. And out of that, he created Virabhadra, a very great demon, and ordered him, go and kill everybody at the sacrificial arena. So, Brahmanas have power. Even 1,000 years ago, Madhvacharya was such a great Brahmana, he could just chant on seeds and they would turn into gold coins. He would chant on seeds and they would germinate. It is said at one time his father was owing somebody, and the guy came looking for his money. He just took some tamarind seeds and chanted on those tamarind seeds, and they turned into gold coin. He paid off the debt of the father. Even during the time of Haridas Thakur 500 years ago, when the caste Brahmanas challenged him about the holy name, Haridas was glorifying the holy name, and these caste Brahmanas did not believe it. So there was an argument. And one Brahmana said, if you contest that the holy name is so powerful, within 1 week, you will lose your nose. And if the holy name is actually powerful, as you are describing it, I will lose my nose. Within 3 days, the Brahmana lost his nose. Within 3 days, his nose melted. He had to run to Haridas and beg him. So Brahmanas have power. But due to the misuse of Brahminical power, Prabhupada writes, that led to the deterioration of Brahminical power, especially in Kali Yuga. And Shringi, he undermined the position of Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit Maharaj was not only the ruler of the earth, he was a pure devotee. He was a dear devotee, a Parishada Dasa in the category of Uddhava, Daruka, Satyaki, Shrutadev, Nanda Maharaj, Upananda, Bhishma Dev, Vidura. Parikshit Maharaj was in that category of Parishada Dasas, the dear devotees of Krishna. We have Adikrita Dasas, qualified servants, Asrita Dasas, surrendered servants, Parishata Dasas, constant companions of the Lord, and Anugata Darshas, those who are ready to do anything and everything for the satisfaction of the Lord. Such devotees are very dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Parikshit Maharaj, a glorious Parishada Dasa, was such an exalted personality. And Shringi, describing as a crow, as a dog, watchdog, that was a serious offense. It was a Mahaparat, a Mahapapa, for him to make that statement. And therefore, Brahminical culture deteriorated. And today, Brahmanas, they do not have the power to chant such mantras. Vipra mantra vido yuktas tayat proktas tata shitaha. Brahmanas who are completely expert in chanting Vedic mantras were great yogis, equipped with Brahma Tejasas, and whatever they say will come true. Whatever blessings they gave will have effect. But today, that is nowhere to be found because of the offense caused by Shringi. Shringi, as Srila Prabhupada writes, Shringi was a qualified Brahmana. He was a qualified son of a great Brahmana. He attained the required Brahminical power, both by birth and by training, but he lacked the culture of a Brahmana because he was an inexperienced boy and therefore brought calamity upon the Brahmana caste by insulting and cursing an exalted devotee of the Lord like Parikshit Maharaj. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he met Sanatana Goswami in Varanasi, he was so happy to see Sanatana Goswami. Even though Sanatana Goswami was wearing a beard, he was like a Muslim, looking dirty because he had walked for several days without taking a bath, without even eating anything. He was looking very dirty. But as soon as he stepped into the compound of Chandrasekhar, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced him and began to clean the body of Sanatana Goswami with his own hands. Chandrasekhar was shocked to see the Lord touching a Muslim. He considered him a Muslim. Touching a Muslim, embracing a Muslim, cleaning his bodies. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke a verse. Vipra dvi sarguna yudvat aranda vrinda naba. He says, one may be born in a Brahmana family and have all the 12 Brahminical qualities, but if he is not a devotee to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has a navel-like lotus navel, he is not as good as a Chandala who has dedicated his mind, words, and activities in the service of the Supreme Lord. Simply to take birth in a Brahmana family or to have Brahminical qualities is not sufficient. One must become a pure devotee of the Lord. Therefore, Sanatana Goswami says, Toma deki toma sparsa gai tomara guna. By seeing you, by touching you, by glorifying you, one can attain perfection. This is the verdict of the revealed scriptures. So, my dear Sanatana, seeing a person like you is the perfection of my eyes. Touching your lotus feet is the perfection of touch. And glorifying your transcendental qualities with my tongue is the real business of my tongue. For to find such an exalted Vaishnava like you in this world is very rare. So therefore, Shringi, condemning Parikshit Maharaj, insulting Parikshit Maharaj simply because he had garlanded his father with a death snake, was not right. He has gone beyond his limits. After all, it is said, whatever the king has done, sometimes the king may even perform some sinful activity, but he should never be condemned. He should never be insulted. He should always be respected, because the king is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The king is endowed with Palana Shakti, the ruling energy of the Supreme Lord, for maintaining living entities and keeping order in society. And therefore, the king should always be respected. But because Shringi, proud of his Brahmana Tejas, proud of his caste, proud of his birth, he looked down on Parikshit Maharaj, who was more exalted than him as a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore, he brought calamity upon the caste, Brahmana caste. And today, it is said, Kalo Sudra Sambhava, Kalo Sudra Sambhava. There are no Brahmanas in Kali Yuga. Everyone is simply a Sudra. So this is the result of the behavior of Shringi. Thank you very much. Any comments or questions?
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the class, as always. Lots of lessons, lots of stories. Dear devotees, okay. Ganga Prashad Prabhu, please, you may unmute.
Hare Krishna Maharaj,
Hare Krishna, Ganga Prasad. I'm always happy to see your face. I'm always happy to see your face.
Okay, let me put my face up. It's just that I'm hiding it off my.
Please don't put up your face.
Please do.
It's affected by light, so everywhere is dark.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the wonderful packaging. And it was actually information filled, packed, enlivening, and it's titillating to the intellect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for giving the opportunity.
The way you describe Shringi, his background, his qualification, I was just trying to probe. Is it that Shringi has knowledge, Gyan, but he did not have realized knowledge, Vigyan?
Yes.
Would it be right to conclude like that?
Yes, that's why Prabhupada said he is inexperienced. Experience comes from realization. You see, Krishna consciousness is on two levels. One level is to acquire knowledge. But the second level is to acquire wisdom through experience. By our interaction, by our years of practice, we acquire wisdom, which is realizations. Whatever we are learning, whatever we are hearing, through the years, through experiences, we begin to see the practicality of this knowledge. So Shringi, because he was a boy, he had the knowledge, he had the training, but that realization, that wisdom, that experience was absent. And that is why he acted whimsically. He acted out of emotions. His father was not happy with that pronouncement he made. After all, what is a dead snake? A dead snake has no effect whatsoever. It may indicate a disrespect, wearing somebody instead of a garland, he gave him a garland of a dead snake. It may show disrespect, but actually, There is no harm. The snake is dead. It cannot bite him. There is nothing to warrant that curse that he would die in 7 days. You see, punishment is necessary for somebody who erred. But when you over-punish the person, it becomes something else. Punishment is meant for correction. But when the punishment is overdone, then the person issuing the punishment becomes implicated. So Shringi, he was angry that Parikshit Maharaj had offended his father, had disrespected his father for giving him a dead snake as a garland. Accepted. But does that warrant him to be cursed to die in 7 days? There was really no harm to your father. Your father was not harmed in any way. So why are you harming this, not an ordinary person, a king? So it indicates that he has no wisdom. It indicates that he has no realization. It indicates that he has no culture. And Prabhupada mentions that.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Anyone else with any question? See, Prabhuji, I have a question.
Go ahead, Prabhu.
Some of us have Christianity as our background. And in Christianity, we understand from our Lord Jesus Christ. He knew, Lord Jesus Christ knew that he was going to be crucified. But he also said, woe betide one who makes himself like the medium for his crucifixion. Now, Judas Iscariot made himself the medium, and we know how he suffered. His death was very, very pathetic, very, very painful. That is just what we can see with our own eyes on this earth. We don't know the aftermath.
That's right.
But in the case of Maharaj Parikshit, we read yesterday's verse, the verse prior to what we just discussed today, that this action by Shringi was practically engineered by the Lord himself.
That's right.
Now, but it is Shringi who has become the cause of the death of Maharaj Parikshit.
Yeah.
So does Shringi suffer any consequences for making himself the medium for Maharaj Parikshit's death? That's my question.
Yeah, it is not mentioned what the what suffering or consequences Shringi in person had to go through for this curse, but it is mentioned that the whole Brahmana caste was affected. His pronouncement, his curses, which caused the death of Parikshit Maharaj, that pronouncement affected the whole caste, the whole Brahminical caste. It deteriorated the Brahmanas, and they lost their tejas, they lost their power because of that. So there is a consequence, but the consequence is not just him alone, but it affected the whole caste, and not the whole caste. Prabhupada said because the Brahmanas are the head of the Varna, the social system, the rest of the Varnas also deteriorated. It is said that the fish begins rotting in the head. So once the Brahmanas began to deteriorate, then obviously the Kshatriyas will deteriorate, the Vaishyas will deteriorate, and the Sudras will deteriorate. So that offense affected the whole social system. But I've not come across a specific statement whereby Shringi suffered a particular reaction for this curse. But it does affect the whole Brahminical caste.
Well, Hare Krishna, that is another wahala, because if one person, Shringi, should commit his nonsense, and as a result, the entire Brahmins have to suffer, well, I will leave it there. But if anyone has any question, please, you may ask.
It's just like in the case of Brigu.
Yeah.
Now, when Brigu was sent to establish the superiority between Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu.
Krishna.
Yes. So Brigu has to use his intelligence to ascertain who is supreme. And for Vishnu, he stepped on Vishnu's chest. He kicked Vishnu's chest very violently.
Yeah.
And even though Lord Vishnu, he was in bliss because his devotee had touched him with his lotus feet. Lord Vishnu was in bliss. He was in ecstasy. Now such a highly qualified Brahmana like Brigu had touched him with his leg. But Manalakshmi, she was very disturbed. She was very upset. And she issued a curse. He said, for stepping on the chest of my husband, for kicking Lord Vishnu on the chest, you and your descendants, Brahmanas, you will ever remain poor. And that curse is still working till today.
I will say, I wouldn't say if, because that is what the scriptures say. So the fact that our scriptures say things like what you just described, Mother Lakshmi cursing Brigu Muni, who was a Brahmin, and as a result, all Brahmins are deprived of riches. What difference does that, what is the difference between that and when the Bible tells us that simply because of the sin of one man, Adam, all humankind have become sinners, which most of the time we as Vaishnavas do not accept that. We do not accept that because Abraham disobeyed God and ate the apple he was forbidden not to eat. Me, Sahadev, sitting here, I'm also suffering because of that. I don't even know the taste of that apple. He ate it. and now I'm here suffering. It's the same thing like Brigu. So if that is the case, then I think what the Bible says should also be accepted.
Well, it's interesting that Shringi's action has affected the whole Brahminical caste, and Manalakshmi's curse is also affecting all the Brahmanas. So we can say, yeah, there are some hereditary reactions. There are some hereditary reactions. Just like it is said that when one pure devotee is born in a family, that pure devotee can liberate 100 generations up, 100 generations down by the power of his devotional service. So In the same vein, if a personality like Mother Lakshmi issues the curse that because Bhrigu had kicked Lord Vishnu on the chest, and therefore all his descendants will remain poor. Actually, the Acharyas say that that wasn't a curse. Mother Lakshmi's curse was actually a blessing in disguise. Because the Brahmanas, they always want to live very simple. Brahmanas are not very much into, possession of great wealth. Brahmanas, they just want to maintain themselves. Whatever they have, they're satisfied with it. Tushtir atushta. A Brahmana is always satisfied with whatever he gets. But those who are never satisfied are tustis. No matter what you give them, they are never satisfied. And so because the Brahmanas are easily satisfied, they are always in the mode of goodness. And because they are always in the mode of goodness, they can understand transcendental subject matters. They can study the scripture, they can imbibe it, they can teach it. So Mother Lakshmi was actually blessing the Brahmanas by saying, you remain poor. You may remain poor materially, but Mother Lakshmi is saying you become rich spiritually. So it was that curse actually was Mother Lakshmi's desire to bless the Brahmanas. Just like it's also sad that Durga Devi has two types of mercies. She has Sapakata Kripa and Niskapata Kripa. Sakapata Kripa means the punishing mercy, and Niskapata Kripa means the liberating mercy. When Durga Devi wants to show his real mercy to the living entity, he subjects the living entity to unlimited difficulties, unlimited pain. And out of that difficulties and pain, the living entity becomes detached from the material world. He becomes aloof from the material world. And then he takes shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. So even though it may seem that Durga Devi is punishing the living entity with its Niskapata Kripa, but actually her intention is to free the living entity from this material world. But when Durga Devi wants to actually punish the living entity, he awards him Sakapata Kripa. He awards the living entity a lot of opulence, a lot of material assets. And that entangles the living entity, and he perpetuates his material existence. So one may view it as Durga is being kind to one personality by giving him a lot of material facilities, and being unkind to the other by putting him through a lot of material difficulty. That is on the surface. The real purpose is to liberate the person who is subjected to difficulty. Durga Devi wants to give her wonderful mercy of liberating her from this material creation. And so he subjects the soul to difficulty so that he can surrender to the Supreme Lord. And on the other hand, Durga Devi wants to perpetuate the material existence of such a conditioned soul. So he gives them a lot of material facility, and that entices him, and that keeps him in the material world. So sometimes blessings of these great personalities are in disguise. For the case of Shringi, it was not a blessing in disguise because it affected the Brahmanas, then lost their tejas, they lost their power, they lost their ability to chant mantras, they lost everything as brahmanas. They only have the threat and the birthright. And that alone does not constitute a brahmana.
Well, thank you so much, Prabhuji. If
Hare
anyone
Krishna.
else has a question, Governor Prabhu, okay, please. Unmute, you are muted.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Am I audible?
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Yes, you are.
Hare Krishna, SRIVAS Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Accept mine also. I always see you doing the work
Oh,
of
glories.
oh, glories. You are doing the work of Daruka.
Oh,
Daruka is always driving Krishna.
Okay, Prabhuji, go
Hare
ahead.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, yeah, my obeisances to you, Maharaj, my obeisances to all the devotees.
Hare Krishna.
You see, I have a lot of questions from the answers you are giving and your presentation itself. I don't know how I'm going to ask all these questions, but I'll make it very, very brief.
One at a time, one at a time.
Yeah, let me go. Okay, let me take it one at a time.
All
Okay,
right.
the first question will be that, you know, it is said that in every action there is a corresponding reaction,
Okay.
and the Lord will not punish innocent person for no reason. And so the law is there, cause and effect.
Yeah.
So Shringi's activity has affected the generations of Brahmins.
Mm.
So I may ask, before Shringi, as the Brahmanes have acted in a way that they deserve this reactions from Shringi's act for make the Brahmanes suffer. Because if the Brahmanes have not done anything before Shringi's curse to Parikshit Maharaj, then I don't see why the law should arrange for Shringi to act this way for Brahmanes to suffer. So the question is, as the Brahmanes before Shringi has done anything wrong that deserved this kind of punishment?
Well, we can say as at the time Shringi issued this, there was not a case whereby the Brahmanas acted otherwise, acted wrongly. But because this happened at the Sandhya, we can say the conjunction between Dwarapa Yuga and Kali Yuga. Dwarapa Yuga had finished, and now they're entering into Kali Yuga. And as we all know, Kali Yuga is a very horrible yuga where there is so much degradation. So to actually usher in the Kali Yuga, first the Brahmanas, who are the heads of the society, the brain of the society, they had to be affected. That was Kali's calculation. It is said that if you want to fall a tree, you first cut the root. If you just cut the branches, the tree will grow back, the branches will grow back. But if you cut the root, then you can kill the tree at once. So the Brahmanas are the brain of society. And so if you want to affect the whole society, then you have to start from the brain. So even though there is no record of Brahmanas doing something otherwise, but Kali, he was calculating. Actually, Kali had been trying in several ways to enter the kingdom because the age of Dwaraka was getting over and Kali Yuga had to begin. So Kali had to find ways and means to perpetuate his presence. And so Kali's strategy was to actually affect the brain. Once the head is affected, the arms will be affected, the stomach will be affected, the legs will be affected, everything will be affected. So it was Kali's plan to affect the Brahmanas, who are the head of the social body. And by affecting the Brahmanas, naturally, automatically, the deterioration did not only affect the Brahmanas, it affect the Kshatriyas, affect the Vaishyas, affect the Sudras. So all the other social orders follow suit. So that was to get Kali Yuga to set in. That was to get Kali Yuga to become prominent. That was to get Kali Yuga to become manifest. So therefore, Kali entered the mind of Shringi. Actually, it is said that when Parikshit Maharaj gave 4 places for Kali to reside. I think we have been discussing that where there is gold, where there is drinking, where there is illicit sex, where there is meat eating, brothels, those were the places Parikshit Maharaj assigned Kali to live. So it is said that as soon as Parikshit Maharaj gave Kali the authority to live in places where there were gold, Kali immediately entered his crown. You know, the king was wearing a golden crown. So Kali immediately entered the crown of Parikshit Maharaj. And is this Kali in the crown of Parikshit Maharaj who influenced him to garland Shamika Rishi with a death snake. And the same Kali entered Shringi because he was immature, inexperienced. Kali entered his mind and made him to issue such a curse. So from all this, we can understand that Kali Yuga had to begin. Kali Yuga was to set in, and therefore the personality of Kali has to find ways and means to make sure her presence or his presence was felt. So in one sense, it is like a natural sequence. From Krita Yuga or Satya Yuga, we move to Treta Yuga. From Treta Yuga, we move to Dwarapa Yuga. From Dwarapa Yuga, we move to Kali Yuga. So that's a natural sequence. So it was time for Kali Yuga to take place, and therefore all of these things were put in place for Kali Yuga to start. So the Brahmanas, there was no indication that they committed any crime, but Kali entered the mind of Shringi, and because he was immature, he was inexperienced, and with the influence of Kali, he dared curse a very exalted devotee like King Parikshit and brought trouble to the whole Brahminical caste.
Well, Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Prabhuji. I think Govinda may have a follow-up question, but we would like to take Rasavan Prabhu's question. Rasavan Prabhu, please unmute. And then Prabhu Govinda, if you want to follow up. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vanacari Maharaj, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Nice to see
And all
you.
God- Thank you very much. All glories to all the devotees present here.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Maharaj, in your presentation, you nicely delineated the Vanashram Dharma and how it works so perfectly in the Satya Yuga, Tetra Yuga, Dwapara Yuga. And now we are still existing. The Kali Yuga has come to dawn on us. And presently, I'm relating my question to our present state of affairs, particularly on this, our Earth planet. We can count on our fingertips countries that we can pinpoint that maybe this Vanashram system is working. But the majority of the countries, we are practically under Sudra rule. So, Lord Chaitanya's mercy through Srila Prabhupada has come to establish ISKCON, which is giving us deep spiritual training. And we heard somewhere along the line that Srila Prabhupada says, all what he has done, he has accomplished 50% of the mission. That there's a 50% that is left, which is the Vanashram Dharma. But currently, with the way things are going in the whole world, is there any hope of establishing a proper Vanashram Dharma system where you so highlighted on the cooperation between the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas, the way they cooperated, and then there was nice rule and progress for all the people. Is there any hope for this, our present world?
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for this important question. This question is being addressed by many, many important devotees in our movement. The GBC, they're still not clear when it comes to this issue of Vanashram Dharma. Yes, it is a fact Prabhupada had made it clear that 50% of his work is undone, and that is establishing Varnashram colleges, establishing Vanashram Dharma throughout the world, because that is the perfect system Krishna has created for the perfect running of the entire world. So, therefore, Prabhupada wanted to see that his society, ISKCON society, can reintroduce this Daiva Vanashram. Right now, what we have is called Asura Vanashram. Yeah, Asura Vanashram means that they are still trying to follow the Vanashram to some degree, but the goal of Vanashrama is to please the Supreme Lord. That is the goal of Vanashrama. But now, people are using the Vanashrama for their own purposes, not for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in Daivi Vanashram, everyone is connected to the Supreme Lord. The Brahmanas are connected, the Vaishyas are connected, the Kshatriyas are connected, the Sudras are connected. Everybody plays his role in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is Daivi Vanashram. In a Suri Vanashram, they castigate against each other. There is segregation. Sudras cannot mix with Kshatriyas and Brahmanas. So that is Asuric. So what Prabhupada wanted to establish is the Daivi Vanashrama, the spiritual Vanashrama with Krishna in the center. Those who are inclined to Brahminical culture, those who are inclined to studying the scriptures, those who are inclined to teaching the scriptures, they should be trained in such a way that they represent the Brahmana class. But they will do that in connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those who are inclined to administration, they should be trained in such a way that they will administer our temples, administer our projects, and they will do it for Krishna's pleasure. Those who are Vaishyas, who like to generate money, who want to generate resources, let them do that to the utmost level, but in the service of the Supreme. And those who are neither interested in studying scriptures, neither interested in protection or protecting the citizens, neither interested in generating income businesses, let them serve all the other Varnas with Krishna in the center. And that will create the perfect system for serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Prabhupada wanted to demonstrate that this Varnashrama can still be applicable. It can still function in Kali Yuga, provided Krishna is the center of the Varna Ashrama. So we can say it is possible. It is possible to establish Varnashram Dharma in Kali Yuga. It is possible to bring all the different Varnas together in the service of the Lord. And actually it is happening. It is happening. There are some devotees who are inclined to Brahminical culture. There are some devotees who are inclined to administration. There are some devotees who are inclined to business. They want to generate money. And there are also some devotees who are just inclined to rendering services. So if all of these things are put together and everyone does his part in the service of Krishna, the Varna Ashrama can be reestablished. So there are some individual devotees who are working tirelessly to establish Varnashram colleges. I just heard that His Holiness Bhakti Raghava Swami is establishing a Varnashram college in Mayapur. And I think this year they are going to start some courses in Sri Mayapur. And so I've heard that in Europe, there is a Kshatriya college. And those who are interested in that Varna, they can go there for training. And of course, this all our Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhava, Bhakti Vedanta, Bhakti Sarvabhauma institutions are actually meant for training Brahmanas. Deity Worship Department, Mayapur Academy, they are meant for training Brahmanas. And then we still need to establish the Vaishya community. These farm communities are actually supposed to be handled by Vaishyas. And of course, the Sudras class will just serve the rest of the people. So Prabhupada's desire was to create that facility whereby the Brahmanas can study the scriptures, preach the scriptures, teach the scriptures, and live a very high level of life, high standard of life, to show what it means to be a Brahmana. And the Kshatriyas, taking instructions from the Brahmanas, will protect the citizens and administer the citizens. And the Vaishyas, they will engage in production of grains, of goods and services for the benefit of all the other Varnas. And the Sudras, they will simply render service. But all will be centered around Krishna. That's what Prabhupada wanted to do. and some of his disciples, they are working very hard to establish such colleges. We pray that in this our lifetime, we can actually see some of these colleges that Prabhupada desired, because actually the society can only function and function rightly, correctly, when we have these divisions. Naturally, these divisions are there. If you go to any country, you will find some people who are inclined to studies. They are called bookworms, booklong guys. You also find some people who like administration. You also find some people who like business. And of course, you find some people who want to render service. It is there everywhere. It is there. In every society, it is, there may not be a very distinct divisions, but it is there. Even in a classless society like Russia, during their communist period. During the communist period in Russia, they were promoting a classless society. Prabhupada said that is a dream. It's not possible, because the leaders still receive more salary than everybody else. The leaders lived in better houses than everybody else. The leaders were riding in private cars, and the citizens were riding in buses. So you cannot stop it. You can't stop it, because that's a natural arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Some people must lead, some people must administer, some people must produce, and some people must serve. You will find this in every society in the world, even among the animals. The bees, the ants, they are more perfected in this social system than human beings. If you go to the ant kingdom, they have the queen bee, the queen ant, and the king ant, and they protect it. You go to the bees, the same thing. They have the queen bee, the queen honey bee, they have the king honey bee, and they have their working class. They have the soldiers. Those bees that bite are the soldiers. They are administrators. They attack. It's not all bees that bite. It's not all bees that bite. So even in the animal kingdom, there is the Vanashrama. There is Varnas. So that is the law's natural arrangement. But we human beings, we have spoiled everything. And so Prabhupada wanted to bring it back, at least among his followers, among the devotional fold. He wanted to establish it. And if the world sees how it is working perfectly, the world will follow. That was his plan. But unfortunately, it did not happen. Prabhupada in the early days wanted to build a Vanashram college in Kurukshetra. Somebody donated a land, and he wanted immediately, even at that time we had no temples, Prabhupada wanted to build a Vanashram college in Kurukshetra. He ordered Ambarish Prabhu to bring some money. Ambarish Prabhu, I think he brought about $70,000 to America just for the establishment of the Vanashram College, the first Vanashram College in Kurukshetra. But unfortunately, the guy who donated the land, people played politics, they spoke to him, and he took the land back. And so Prabhupada was unhappy, but he directed that the money should be spent for the Vrindavan temple. So that money was donated to the Vrindavan temple for building Krishna Balaram temple. So it was his desire that to set an example where the proper system, Daivi Vanashrama, could be established. And if it were functioning nicely, then well will follow. So we hope that Bhakti Raghava Maharaj and his team will be able to fulfill Prabhupada's desire. And maybe in the future, this Daivi Vanashram will be a project There are world leaders we want to follow because they will see the orderliness, they will see the peace, they will see the joy of working with that within that system, and they would follow.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the answer. And Rasavan Prabhu, thank you for the question. But Ganga Pasha Prabhu will be with you shortly. I may say I would encourage devotees to read George Orwell's Animal Farm because he portrays this very beautifully there about communism, thinking that there will be a classless world, but it's not possible because you realize that Napoleon and Snowball, they were saying that there is no leader. Eventually, they became leaders.
That's right.
Snowball and Napoleon. And I'm talking about Vanasha, like His Grace Shiva Vanacari said, yes, it is possible. And actually, it is happening, except that it's not huge. So we're not seeing it. Like where I am now, there is something called soup kitchen, where whenever people are hungry, they cannot feed, they have no means of feeding themselves, they go to these places and then they get fed for free. There is one near me called St. Francis of Assisi soup kitchen. And there is one huge one, which is very famously known all over the world. In India, it is called, what is the name? The Golden Temple, where they have like thousands of people. They have medical doctors, judges, lawyers, pilots, huge people in society, even governmental officials, but they all roll up their sleeves and do the cooking in the kitchen. They volunteer for free. In that kitchen, everybody is serving just to feed people. So it is possible. We just have to, like Srila Prabhupada said, the previous acharyas did not come to the West because they left it for him to do it. So Srila Prabhupada could have done it if he wanted to do it. He could have done it, but he has left it for us.
That's right.
So it is our responsibility to make sure we make it happen. But thank you so much. His Grace Ganga Prashad, please you may unmute.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah, I just need a little bit of assistance to clarify my understanding. When you were answering Prabhu Govinda's question, you had mentioned how Kali was trying to exert his authority to assess or to usher in Kali Yuga.
Yeah.
And when you were saying that, I was just likening it to that in community of devotees, Maya will be put at bay if, or he said that Maya, this is Maya Dam, it can enter anywhere except two places. Okay. Maya can go anywhere except two places. And those two places are where there is a chanting of the holy name, Nam Seva, and where Vaishnavas are serving each other, Vaishnava Seva. These two places Maya cannot enter. But if Maya wants to penetrate, then it will influence the weak ones in that community who are not chanting. They will become accessible or they will become susceptible. And then because they are not chanting, they will start disrespecting and not willing to serve other Vaishnavas. So Maya can come in. And so when you mention that Maya entered the crown of King Parikit and entered the heart of Shringi. So my need for understanding now is, if it was to usher in Kali Yuga, and for Kali Yuga to have its full toll, and in Prabhupada's purport of 1122, Prabhupada opened it by saying the age of Kali is very dangerous for human beings. He used the word, very dangerous for human beings because of the influence of Kali Yuga. So I am a little bit confused about the chase for reestablishing Varnashram Dharma when the inception of Kali Yuga was to destroy Varnashram so that Kali can set in. So will it not amount to like swimming against the current?
Exactly. That's
This
true.
is what my understanding or my doubts are.
Yes, you are right. Actually, preaching Krishna consciousness and Kali Yuga is swimming against the current. Doing anything spiritual in Kali Yuga is swimming against the current. Because the influence of Kali is so strong, Kali wants everything to run down. That is his desire. He had tried in the beginning, but because Parikshit Maharaj was such a strong, powerful king, Parikshit Maharaj limited his activities. But when he just said, all right, you can stay here, these 4 places, he gave him the authority. And immediately he entered his crown. Even Parikshit did not know that Kali had taken shelter of his crown.
Wow.
He did not know. But he had authorized him. He had given the power. Stay where there is gold. Stay where there is illicit sex. Stay where there is meat eating. Stay where people are doing gambling and so on and so forth. So immediately because he given that power, the first place to enter was the crown of Parikshit Maharaj. And so he hid in that crown and followed Maharaj everywhere and eventually influenced him to do what he did. And then immediately he also entered the heart of Sringi and influenced him to do what he did. And that ushered in Kali Yuga. So as you said, we can defeat Kali with 2 things. Wherever the holy name is vibrated sincerely and strongly, regularly, Kali has no entrance. He's weakened. He cannot. And where there is a sweet relationship between Vaishnavas, wherever there is Vaishnav Seva going on, Kali has no access to such a place. But those who are weak and they are not following the laid down rules and regulations, those who are weak and they are not chanting japa, those who are not weak or those who are envious of Vaishnavas, Kali will take advantage of them. And he will create havoc. He will wreak havoc in the Vaishnava community. And therefore, Prabhupada says that there is no force outside there that can stop Krishna consciousness. There is no force outside there that can disrupt the activities of Krishna consciousness. There is no force outside there that can actually stop us from what we are doing. It is within. When the devotees begin to quarrel, devotees begin to disagree, devotees begin to attack each other because of the influence of Kali, then this society will be wrecked. So it is a duty of the leaders to always encourage, always ensure that devotees in the community, at least they are chanting 16 rounds and following the regs, 4 regs. If they are doing that, they are protected against Kali. Wherever the holy name is vibrated, because the holy name and Krishna are non-different. Binatvam namino namaha. Krishna and his name are non-different. Anyone who is constantly chanting Krishna's name, he is associating with Krishna to a degree. He is sincerely calling Krishna. To the degree he is giving up sinful life. To a degree he really desires Krishna. Krishna makes himself available. In fact, it is said, Sangha Prema Aswadhya, that in the association of devotees, Krishna, devotees can taste the sweetness of Krishna. In the association of devotees, devotees can taste the sweetness of Krishna. Because the devotees are always chanting the names of Krishna, invoking Krishna's presence, Krishna becomes available in association of devotees. And so when one is drawn into the association of devotees, he will gradually begin to enjoy the association of devotees. You begin to taste Krishna's sweetness. And that is what this Krishna consciousness is promoting. We are establishing Krishna consciousness to provide the sweetness of Krishna consciousness so that the people of this world, they would come and they will experience that sweetness of Krishna. Then only will they give up their material activities, will they give up Maya. So it's the responsibility of the devotees to create this enabling environment, enabling atmosphere of loving relationships, loving interactions, sweet interactions, that anybody who comes into our fold will see, oh, these people, they are wonderful. Oh, these people, they're great. And then he will also love to join. So this is the way forward for our society to grow. And we can simply increase the sweetness of our relationship by serving each other. And if we can increase the potency of our movement by chanting the holy name sincerely every day, Maya has no effect. Maya has no influence on such a group of devotees. But as soon as we give up chanting, we minimize our chanting, we minimize our relationships, we minimize service to Vaishnavas, we increase offenses, we increase our neglect for Vaishnavas, we are inviting Kali. We are creating a royal road for Kali to drive in and wreak havoc to the preaching mission of Srila Prabhupada or Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So what you said is nothing but the truth, that by service to the Vaishnavas and by constantly chanting the holy name, Maya has no influence. In fact, look at the life of Haridas. Srila Haridas demonstrated graphically that Maya has no effect on a devotee. Can you imagine a young man like Haridas in a cave or in a hermitage in the middle of the night? A very beautiful woman in her youth appears. There are just two of them there, just two of them. And the woman is displaying all the womanly qualities. Is showing part of her body just to entice Haridas. He's offering her body to Haridas. He's luring Haridas. He's talking sweetly to Haridas. I've come to enjoy with you. You're such a handsome, young, beautiful man. And I'm such a beautiful woman. I've come to offer myself to you. Please, let's enjoy. Forget about this chanting. Haridas said, don't worry, I will enjoy you. Don't worry, just sit down here. I have a vow of chanting a certain number of rounds a day. When I finish, we enjoy unlimitedly. Just don't worry. Yeah, I'm for you, you're for me. I'll fulfill your desires. But here, his interest, he knew exactly what she had come for. She knew. But he was thinking, let me make her a Vaishnava. If I can make this one a Vaishnava, that would be the success of my preaching. So instead of running away, I will make her a Vaishnava. That was his determination. The determination of the prostitute was to contaminate Haridas, and the determination of Haridas was to purify the prostitute. So each of them had a different goal. But Haridas won. After 3 days of hearing the pure chanting of Haridas, all his sinful desires were gone. and she had to come first. Haridas just told her, yes, I knew the very moment you stepped here, I understood what you had come for. But I stayed just to deliver you. Now that I've delivered you, now that you have become a devotee, you take over my place, you sit down here and chant, worship the Tulsi, I am gone. So the Haridas life demonstrates the power of chanting, the power of the holy name. And we all take to the holy name very seriously. Maya has no power to deal with the devotees. Maya has no power where the holy names are chanted, where the holy names are vibrated. Maya has no power. And we have seen it. When the devotees do kirtan very nicely, constantly. Sometimes I remember my early days as a devotee. I did not know what was Maya because of kirtan. Every day we would do kirtan, especially Sundarati kirtan. In the morning, we don't have enough time. 30 minutes is over. Guru Puja class is waiting, is over. But in the evening, we could chant for 1 hour before class. Starting from 6:30, we could go till 7:30. Then class could start at 7:30 to 8:30. So the evening kirtans in our early days was something to write about. It was beautiful. It was sweet. It was intense. And so devotees did not know what was Maya. They would be so absorbed in that kirtan. I remember devotees from town, working devotees, they would rush to the temple just because of the evening kirtan. They would want to drench themselves in the holy name so they can walk through Maya without any touch. They will not fail. And remember, a number of devotees in Lagos, they were working. But in the evening, they will all rush to the temple, take prasadam, and participate in the kirtan. They will sweat. All their clothes will be wet. And they'll go home with that sweat. And there was no Maya. But these days, our evening kirtans are more or less like some funeral. People are not enthusiastic. People are not ready. 30 minutes, they are tired. They want to close the kirtan. So we are giving room for Maya to attack. But if we can simply increase our Sundarati, dance, chant strongly and dance strongly, Maya will stay out of our temples. It's a fact. We have experienced it before. So thank you for that comment, Ganga Prasad Prabhu. I wish we can implement that in all our temples and keep Maya out.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, His Grace.
I just idea you can also ascertain that in media here. We have a temple, but in a wooden structure.
Yeah.
We would dance. Even Mrigari would stand on the kirtan was so sweet. The kirtan was so powerful that the dog that was a security wanted to join the kirtan.
Yes, every night.
We will close the door.
Yeah.
Then he will go and stand on the iron rod we have piled up, and he'll be dancing from there.
Yeah.
Mrigari.
Prabhuji, thank you so much for the class and especially the answer and auxiliary words you added to Ganga Prasad's question and comment. But I will humbly suggest to devotees that despite how sweet this narration of Haridas and the prostitute is, if it does happen to us, we should find a way to take to our heels. We should not try to stay.
That's true. I agree with you.
If we try to stay,
the energy and the potential.
If we try to stay, we will disappear completely.
It's true. We are just giving an example how the chanting the holy name has a potency. And we do that's true.
Prabhuji, let me put this. We have already taken like 2 hours, 20 minutes. I don't want us to take too much time, but Prabhuji, I beg you, let me put this verse on the screen. And this verse we are treating, and I've highlighted it. This Shringi is a very, very, excuse me my language, very, very dangerous rascal.
Boy.
No, I mean, the way this little boy spoke, oh, just look at the sins. And he's speaking to his king.
Yes.
He's speaking to Maharaj Pariksit. And he says, oh, just look at the sins of the rulers who, like crows and watchdogs at the door, perpetrate sins against their masters. So he is referring to Maharaj Pariksit as crow and
watchdog. Yeah.
And he is perpetrating sin against his master, which means his father is a master to Maharaj Pariksit.
Yes.
And it is contrary to the principles governing servants that Maharaj Pariksit is a servant to his father. Now, my question is, as a young boy, where were the elders when he was making this statement? And what did the elders do? What did the 4 sons of Maharaj Pariksit do? John Majaya was so angry at the snake that bit his father. Why didn't he turn his anger to the boy who created the curse? So my question is it in the narration at any point where some elders came to like chastise Shringi that, hey, you're not supposed to do this. Don't repeat this next time. No, yesterday we were talking about community, how in well-established community, my son is your son, my son is his son. Everybody can help train my child. And that was the system there. So who tried to correct this little rascal, Shringi? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhu. This, it appears he was playing with his fellow children. And then somebody brought the news that their father has been garlanded by Pariksit Maharaj with a dead snake. He had not even gone to ask the father. He had not given to speak to the father. As soon as he just heard that the king had garlanded his father with a dead snake, he issued a curse. So that was among his fellow children. Yeah, that's the first situation. There were no elders around to chastise him or reprimand him for that curse he issued. Of course, it is mentioned, I think the next verse is talking about Samika Rishi's disapproval.
Yes.
Of the curse.
That was a very mild disapproval, Prabhuji.
Well, it was mild, but it indicated that he was not happy with that statement. The son was not happy. So, but we should also consider the fact that Kali Yuga had to advent itself.
Yeah.
And so, forces of providence were also in play to make sure that Kali Yuga's presence was felt. Now, even Pariksit Maharaj, it is said that he could have counteracted the curse because he was such a great devotee. He was a Vishnu Rata. He was fully protected by Lord Vishnu. He was very dear to Vishnu. Parsharta Dasa, very dear to Lord Vishnu. He could have counteracted that, but he considered it the arrangement of the Lord. He saw it that way. So he did not think of counteracting or retaliating. He just said, well, accept it. Let me find out what I should do as a dying man. I'm cursed to die in 7 days. Let me find some exalted devotee, some exalted sage who can guide me for these 7 days so that I can quit this well in the best way possible. So even though he had the Shakti, he had the power to counteract Shringi's curse, but Parikshit Maharaj himself was not ready for that. He felt it was Krishna's arrangement, and therefore he would follow it through. And of course, because Krishna wanted Bhagavatam to be spoken in the presence of all the great sages, so that Sutta Goswami would hear it and deliver it to the sages of Naima Saranya. All of these things Krishna had put down behind the scene. And what is more, future generations of devotees would relish Krishna's pastimes by reading Srimad Bhagavatam. So because of all this, Parikshit Maharaj was guided by the Super Soul, Antaryami, not to react in any way, not to counteract the curse. He accepted it as Krishna's mercy. And that shows how exalted Parikshit Maharaj is. He's more exalted than Shringi, more exalted than his father, because he had the power to counteract what it was to be counteracted. But he accepted it as Krishna's mercy. So, Janamejaya, the senior son of Parikshit, he also followed what the father, he also followed the mood of the father. He did not go to Shringi or go to Samika Rishi to challenge them or retaliate for issuing a curse that would cause the death of his father. However, he was angry. He decided that he would not allow any snake to bite his father. So immediately he started a yagya and he chanted mantras, and all the snakes in the universe, by the power of that mantra, were falling into the fire. But again, some superior authorities came and said, Dear Janamejaya, see, you cannot counteract the Lord's plan. The Lord wants this thing to happen. Don't commit another violence, killing all these snakes just because one snake has to bite your father. You're overreacting. Like the case of Dhruva Maharaj, when one Yaksha killed Uttama, Dhruva's junior brother, Dhruva was so angry. Now he killed so many Yakshas. He destroyed so many Yakshas that Swayambhuva Manu had to come and say, hey, Dhruva, stop this nonsense. The Lord is happy when a devotee greets others with friendship, with tolerance, with equality. You are a great devotee of the Lord. You have attained perfection. Lord Vishnu came to you on your meditational grounds and touched you with his conch shell. You have achieved the highest perfection in life. Then you are now acting like an ordinary man because one yaksha had killed your brother. You are killing millions of yakshas. This is not becoming of you as a devotee. So Janamejaya was talked out of that sacrifice. So he did not retaliate, following his father's mood. So there was no actual chastisement of Shringi. His father mentally condemned him. His father did not approve the curse, but there was no actual chastisement, reprimandment, and so on for Shringi. But that is also understood because it was also the design of the Lord that this has to happen for Parikshit Maharaj to live in 7 days. And that will facilitate Shukadeva Goswami speaking Bhagavatam. That was the whole arrangement. So we take it to that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prabhuji. And dear devotees, I can't thank you enough for your participation and your love and appreciation to hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. We've already spent 2 hours, 30 minutes. But Hari Chakra Prabhu has his hand up. So I don't know if Prabhuji, if you will be able to take his question on, of course.
Why not?
If
We'll take Hari Chakra's question. Last question.
Please forgive me, but this will be the last interaction. And then we'll call it a day. We'll meet again tomorrow by Guru Krishna's grace. So Hari Chakra Prabhu, please unmute. I hope Hari Chakra Prabhu is sleeping. Then we'll end the class.
Hare Krishna, can you hear me?
Oh, Hare Krishna, I thought you would be sleeping. Okay, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much, Prabhu, for the lecture. My one quick question is a follow-up question to I don't even remember who asked that question, but Ganga Prasad Prabhu made a contribution by saying that wherever there is the chanting of the holy name, there will, what do we call it?
Krishna Seva.
Yeah,
Maya cannot interfere.
Maya cannot interfere. Yeah, and like we all know, like you were saying, Prabhu, that we know that Parikshit Maharaj was such an exalted devotee, and yet Kali was able to enter his crown. This is an indication that even though when we are chanting in the temple everywhere, even though it's a serene place where Maya is not supposed to be able to, yet Maya can still creep in somewhere.
That's true.
But Prabhupada has made the environment, set up the system in such a way that if even Maya creeps in, then we should still have a way of upholding Maya's influence in the system. Yeah, and you were also making reference to in the early days where we were doing a lot of kirtan and all these things. But it was not just the kirtan alone, but those days there were some amount of love that was permeating all over the place. Like we could see that those days when a devotee may be at fault, we don't just, isolate that devotee. We somehow or the other find a means to like bring the devotee, back in the fold. And this is what personally I'm realizing that we are missing today, that we easily victimize people rather than seeing that something is going bad and they need some love. We need to show some empathy or something to bring them back in the fold. I think that is what we are lacking now. This is my personal observance. So I want you to comment a little bit on it. That isn't there a way that we can go back and to history and try to bring that that amount of that change of love that existed among the devotees. So in this way, because during those days, people were, because of the love that people felt, that's why people would close from their work at 5 p.m. and still struggle to find their way to come to Sundarati because they felt loved. But now, if the person is not feeling that love, why would he waste his time closing at 5 p.m., struggle all the way to come to the temple for Sundarati. And then, because when he comes, he does not feel that love, vibrant love that used to exist among us. So, yeah, I'm asking if isn't there any way that somehow or the other we can revisit history and try to bring that change of loving relationship that used to exist among us. We didn't have anything during that time. We didn't have nothing, practically nothing. Sometimes you go to Sankirtan and even there's a little money to buy cold water to drink. You don't even have it. And still we were happy. Those days we didn't have cars. When we go on Sankirtan, we will be carrying our luggage everywhere on our heads. Bath salt, incense, all these books, we were carrying it on our heads, and yet we were happy. Now we have cars to even go out with, and still we are not happy.
Interesting observation. Hare Krishna. You just brought some fresh memories in my head. You know, when we started the Harinam team, we had no bus. And we were about maybe 12, 13 devotees. We were traveling throughout the country. We went almost across the whole country without a bus. And it was such a wonderful experience. We carry our books, we carry our luggage like ants carry their food. They were enjoying like anything because there was that bond. That bond was there, very strong bond. And that also extended to the outside devotees who were working. They could see that bond, they could see that love, and they would want to be part of it. They would rush to the temple to be part of it. But today, that is absent, completely absent. Well, I will attribute that to the fact that we are no more living together. Devotees have their own homes. We are no more eating together. Devotees have their own food. So we are no more seeing the togetherness. Today, if we are to build this temple here in Media, it will be very difficult because there's no cooperation, there is no love. It will be difficult. Even though we have so much access now, those days, we have nothing. We're all sleeping in the wooden structure. So many devotees inside that small ashram. We had 2 ashrams, one for the ladies, one for the men. That's it. And most of us will sleep in the temple room. But we're eating together, sleeping together, doing Harinam together. We're doing together. We did it together as a group. And so naturally that love was there. Today, it's a different situation. I often say that to do a single project now, so much divided interest, divided goals, divided, ideas, because each one is living in his own home, everyone is feeding himself, each one is having his own issues, and the central figure of preaching is minimized. Because those days, the central thing was preaching, Harinam, book distribution. That was our concentration. That was our meditation. And anybody who joined us, that is what we were training the person for. So we had a focus. Our focus was on preaching and Harinam. And obviously, we were following Lord Chaitanya's styles, Lord Chaitanya's mission. Vande Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Krishna Bhava Mrita Hiyaha. Aswadyan Yam Bhakta Prema Diksha Mashikshayat. Lord Chaitanya's mission, Lord Chaitanya's program was chanting of the holy name, dancing, and distributing love from Godhead. And anybody he met, he would give him the opportunity. He says, Patra Patra Vichara. Patra Patra Vichara, Nahi Nahi Stana Stana. Lord Chaitanya, he did not discriminate. Who is qualified, who is not qualified. Anybody he met, he was giving love of God. Anybody he met, he will give the holy name. Anybody he met, he will enthuse the person to chant the holy names of Krishna. Even animals. In the forest of Jarikanda, they were known people to preach to. Lord Chaitanya preached to the animals and made them pure devotees. They danced and sang. That is his mission. So in the beginning, we were following that mission. We're towing that line because we're all living together in one room, eating from one pot, doing everything together. Our goal was preaching. Our goal was Harinam. And every day we went on Harinam. In media here, every evening we would go on Harinam. All of us, nobody was left. Only the Pujari was left. Only one person was left. All of us would go out. All these villages around here, it was a pastime. Every day we would go out. We would enthuse the villagers. We would dance and enthuse the villagers. And some of them would follow us to the temple. So the goal was holy name, distribution of holy name, distributing of books. And therefore, Lord Chaitanya's blessing was on us. Today, it's a different scenario. Everybody for himself and God for us all. If you call for Harinam, some come, some don't come. After all, the temple is not feeding them. After all, nobody is maintaining them. So that is the situation. The situation has changed from a temple focus, where all of us lived in the temple and we did things together as a group. We had our focus of Harinam and book distribution, and everybody participated. Today, it's a different story because everybody is living in his home, doing his own things, and so the preaching is optional. Once they come and worship, they think it's okay, we have done our part, we have worshiped, we've chanted enough. But to go out and perform some austerity, go out and give the holy name, go out and give books, some people think that is not for me. And so that love that Lord Chaitanya was blessing us with, because we're united in chanting, united in distributing the books, united in promoting Lord Chaitanya's mission, Lord Chaitanya was giving us that love. It is no more. We are not attracting it. And therefore, we are becoming dry and dry. We are becoming impersonalists. We don't care about each other. And so, as we said, we have to start thinking how we can bring everybody together. But this time, it will not be that easy because we are not eating together, we are not sleeping together. Those days, it was very easy because everybody was under one shirt, everybody was eating from one pot, everybody had the mission of the Lord in his mind, and that was what we're all pushing. Today, it's a different scenario. But yet, we should, as a group, figure out how we can still somehow or the other encourage. The situation has changed, circumstances have changed, but we still have to figure out how in these circumstances we can still encourage people to participate in such a holy action, holy activity, because that attracts Lord Chaitanya's mercy, that attracts Lord Chaitanya's love. And when we get a touch of it, then that love will manifest. That is what I can say.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. I mean, I don't think there is anything else to be said after what you just expressed. And we all hope and pray that those old pastimes will come back somehow or the other, like Srila Prabhupada would say, somehow or the other.
Yeah.
It has to come back. So at this point, I hope you all agree with me that Prabhuji has been here for almost 3 hours. He has so many other engagements, and due to his nature being giving himself out, he's still here, but we all know that he has lots of other things doing. So you agree with me, we have to let him go. And Prabhuji, we can't thank you enough because there are so many important things you've said that I hope and pray that we all can remember, go back to watch this lecture and learn from it and try to live it, which is the most important thing. So on this note, we humbly requesting the devotees to kindly unmute, and then we chanted the loudest Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express appreciation from our rights here. Jai Hare
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Hare,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare Rama,
Rama
Hare
Rama,
Hare.
Hare
Prabhupada ki. Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj ki.
His Grace Srivas VANACARI ki.
Vaishnav Thakur ki.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.